Hey everybody, before we dive into the episode, I wanted to take a second to tell you about my brand new comic, Danger Boy and the Antagonist. This is a high-octane cyberpunk action thriller. If you think you might be into a story that's a little bit Invincible, a little bit Batman Beyond, with an injection of Super Sentai, then this comic is for you. And you should go to dangerboycomic.com and sign up for our pre-launch page. That way you will know the second the campaign drops, which is coming very soon, and you'll get access to exclusive perks and discounted tiers that will only be available for the first couple days after launch. I'm really excited for this project. I think you all are going to love it. So go to dangerboycomic.com to learn more. Now on with the show. Hello everybody, and welcome back to What We're Into. That's right, everybody. It's our special show where me, your host DJ Wooldridge, and Roxy Stryer, hello Roxy.
Hey DJ.
Talk about the things we're into. Typically, this is a Patreon exclusive show, but there wasn't a lot to talk about this week. So it is our main show for this week. I do have some news. Roxy, did you happen to see this? I'm jumping way ahead. There's usually I do business up top, but I'm already talking about the news, so we'll do business up top later. Did you see all the people freaking out about this new Superman TV spot?
Oh, obviously I saw this because I am a human who couldn't avoid it no matter how hard I tried.
And did you have to catch people up? Yeah. I'm not nearly. If you want to find me on social media, Blue Sky is pretty much the spot, and it's a lot calmer over there. To the point where I don't know if you get this. Every time I log onto X, it feels like I'm being assaulted. I'm like, what?
Truly assaulted.
What is
happening?
Because
also the way that they push their people, and it's just like I don't follow him, and I don't know, but it's just Elon, and I'm like, what? I don't care what you have to say today, Elon.
The fun thing is Instagram's similar because they're like, did you know that you can follow JD Vance on Instagram? I'm like, I did know and don't care. Could you stop telling me that, please?
I did know.
Anyway,
sure.
So even on Blue Sky, I couldn't escape there's this one, most of the stuff in this TV spot is stuff that we saw in the previous teaser, except there's one shot of Superman flying. And I think like most people, I'm like, oh, it's Superman flying. It looks similar to how Adam Warlock flew in Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which makes sense. It's the same director. But apparently what I should have been paying attention to is the awful CGI that, according to James Gunn, is not there. And as somebody that's worked around cameras, I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, that's, different angle, different lighting, face going to look different. I mean, that's how the cameras work.
I want the people who are insistent that this is CGI to explain how.
Yeah.
I want to know what they are seeing.
Yeah.
Because it's one of two things, and probably a combo. Either you really think, looking at this, that this is CGI. Mm-hmm. And then I want to know where and how and where you came up with that.
Yeah.
Or you don't think that, and you're grasping because you just want this to fail so badly that you're just going to make something up. So odd. I'm one of the few people, I guess, who thought that this looked really good.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I think that looks very good.
Yeah.
I'm also apparently one of the few who very clearly and quickly knew that this wasn't CGI on account of the fact that it doesn't look like CGI.
Yeah.
It looks like a wide angle lens with your face being blown with wind. Mm-hmm. And that's, in fact, what it was. This was baffling. Yeah. I liked the spiral motion. I liked the way we came through. I just thought it looked good, but the internet at this point is insufferable.
Yeah, that's very true.
And I don't know how real it is or not. It's hard to know anymore. Like, are you guys all, when everybody's like, these are bots, and I'm like, they can't all be bots, right? But I don't know.
And it's even like, it's tough. Like, what is a genuine? What's rage bait? What's genuine? Like, it's tricky. It's tricky. I am very on board. I'm very what's the word I'm looking for? I'm rooting for this movie very hard. I liked the teaser quite a bit. And I want a real good Superman movie. I could use it. I've earned it, I think, personally. So
who doesn't want a good Superman movie? I'm confused.
Yeah. So
that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, are there people out there really? And I think the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Really rooting for this to fail?
Yes.
So that's odd.
Yeah. Yeah, because
So that's odd behavior.
they want the old thing that's not on the table. Dude, we don't need to get into it. Making a Snyder Cut was a huge mistake because it's the whole give a mouse a cookie thing. Because now they think if they keep bitching about it, they'll get the whole Snyderverse back. And it's like, no, you shouldn't have even got the other thing. That was a minor miracle. Count your wins. You won.
It's so odd. When Man of Steel came out, you guys have been listening to me for years. It's not a surprise to DJ. It's not a surprise to any of you guys. I didn't like that movie.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that movie was not for me. The dog ruined the movie for me. That moment, it really ruined the movie for me. It wasn't my favorite movie. Every subsequent movie that he did, I hoped would succeed.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to love the movies. I wasn't like, I didn't like that movie. And now I curse you.
Yeah.
Curse you. Hope all of your movies fail.
Yeah.
And that's even after seeing one that I didn't like.
Yeah.
So to the rest of the people who haven't seen a single DC movie in this new era, because there hasn't been one.
Yeah.
To already be like, no.
Yeah.
No, you're going to suck.
Yeah.
Wait, why?
Yeah.
Why, babe?
Similarly, for me, the dog scene was tough in Man of Steel. What got me was the Zod at the end. That really but I still rooted because I still wanted. I was rooting for it, right? Because I went and saw that movie like 2 or 3 times in theater, like wanting to no, I really want to like this. And then Batman v Superman came out. I'm like, okay, looks like maybe we're gonna address some of these things. And so I saw that, and I really wanted it to I watched the director's cut of Batman v Superman. It is better than the original. I rooted for Justice League. It wasn't until once we got into the whole Snyder Cut discourse, all right, this isn't. I'm not going to get what I want out of this. This ship has sailed.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how hard I'm rooting for it. I'm not going to get what I want. But I'm back in. I'm rooting for it. I do, having watched the trailer multiple times, so many times, all the crypto stuff gets me emotional every time. I do have some concerns about where the movie could go. There's a lot of characters, and it's just one of those what are we gonna do? But
I'm not concerned about that part at all, actually.
But if the trailer, and I've been burned before, but if the trailer appropriately captures what the movie's going to be like, I'm very much on board. I'm so on board. But we'll see. Also, I don't know. We talked about Creatures Commandos. Having that be the opening salve, the prologue to this, I didn't hate that show, but it did. It's is this what? I don't know if this is it, man. I don't know if this is it.
The way that I think the way that we left it was that you had seen the finale and I hadn't. Yeah. I now have.
Yeah.
And as you can imagine, again, DJ, from number 1, knowing me, but number 2, having spoken about the show at all, while I do think that it was a good show, especially the ending, this show was so upsetting.
Yeah.
But like you said, based on the trailer of Superman, if that's what we're sticking with, then I think that this is going to be great. But if I have any concerns, it's not because there's too many characters, because I think we're world building and we're starting with a Superman movie, and none of the characters announced are why would that character be in a Superman movie? Yeah. It's not grasping at straws. So I feel totally you guys have as many characters as you want, as long as you're not heavily featuring all of them.
Yeah.
But the Creature Commando of it all was kind of oh, Rox, I forgot that I can acknowledge something's good and not for me. And I thought that show was good and not for me. Yeah. And I really hope I don't feel that way about Superman.
Yeah. And I think Creature Commandos is more for me. I think just having this be as a tone setting for, which I don't know that it was meant to be, but it's just this weird thing of if you just said, hey, this was a corner of the old DCU, I'd be oh, this is great. I like this. This is our first thing of the new one. Oh, how much of this is the direction we're going in? Because
yeah, spoiler for Creature Commando, but didn't you guess some of the Clayface? I feel like you had predicted some of the Clayface something.
Somebody online suggested that what's her face, the princess, wasn't Clayface in disguise, which ended up not being the case.
Right,
however, they did swerve out of one of the things that bothered me. one of the things that bothered me was how they handled Frankenstein, because he is not that much of an incel in the comics. That part they did not swerve out of. He just is an asshole. The part that they did swerve out of was like the Rick Flag princess thing felt weird to me. And it's like, oh, it was intentional on her part. It's not just like, Rick Flag has so much riz, this young woman's just throwing herself at him. It's just, no, it was a part of her whole plan. I'm like, okay, that makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah, I think you predicted something like that. There was going to be more to it. I was like, okay, good job, DJ.
Somebody else online pointed out that, like, wait, why did you send poor sweet Nina in if you had King Shark just waiting in the wings? It's like, that's actually a good point. That's good if King Shark's just there. Because in the end, we see the new creature commanders. Like, if King Shark's just around, why are you sending Nina?
Totally.
Anyway, so
sad. That show was sad.
It was sad. It was a bummer. So we just jumped right into news, but a little business up top. If you want to watch this show ad free, if you want to check our Patreon exclusive shows like what we're into typically is, you can do that over at patreon.com/onlystupidanswers. If you can, you want to go to my personal channel, youtube.com/DJ Talks Trash. Adam and I are experimenting with pivoting /pick into more of a reaction type format. So we did a reaction to Prom Night, the 1980 Jamie Lee Curtis follow-up to Halloween. So check that out if you wouldn't mind. And you can leave comments on YouTube videos and Spotify, and we will read them. Last week's comments, what did we talk about last week? Severance. That's what we talked about. Robert Goyette, 5863, said, yes, more trio shows, please. Would love to see Rox and her fellow Sheject, Tara Erickson, on one. Is Sheject an official term, or is that derogatory? Okay, good.
Cult of Shejects.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, we actually love it. One person one day called us the Shejects, but every duo on the channel has a name. So it's not like there's the Geek Jacks, me and Andrew are the Jew Jacks, like whatever you have in common. So there's more offensive ones than the Shejects.
It's not that, listen, if you embrace it, I was just one of those that's like, is this sanctioned? Is this officially?
Yeah, totally. No, we're the Shejects, but all the men have been wearing Shejects gear, which has been so cool. It's like, we love it.
If he said in the comment the Jujeks, I was like, well, this comment is going to get flagged.
No, we're the Jujeks. It's been fun to find whatever you have. There's a bunch of different names, so the Jujeks or whatever. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, would love to have her on. Yeah,
she's great.
Yeah, any of the rejects would love to have them on. And then Grendel4397 said, great episode, guys. Would love to see more of Lon. He's a great guest, and I agree, and that's why I like having him on the show.
Yeah, Lon rivals me every time for TV. He watches as much as I do. It's like Lon, me, Josh McCouga. We're the like TV original. This is what we do. We watch television more than movies.
Well, I want to thank you for saying that, Roxy, because I could not have come up with a better segue myself into TV we're watching. And we're going to start with one that I'm going to put on the thumb. That's why we're starting with it, that I don't think you've seen. Roxy, have you checked out the new animated series on Disney Plus, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man?
Can I tell you the real truth and nothing but the truth? So help me, Spider-Man. I do all of the social for Real Rejects. And so I had to scrub through all of the footage of their reaction to episode 1 and 2.
Yeah.
I have not seen episode 1 and 2, but I have watched the emotional beats through them and them speaking about episode 1 and 2 as they're watching it. So I do feel like I have a little knowledge on it without having fully seen it. Spoilers on the beat with
spoilers for the first 2 episodes of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, which you can check out on Disney Plus whenever you want.
Why am I forgetting the Green Goblin? What is his
Norman
name?
Osborn.
Yeah, like that beat. They were all like, and I was like, oh, I guess they did a good job. But I haven't seen the footage of it, just of that.
Oh, literally just the reaction of it. It's not like the footage is baked in. That's funny.
All like, oh my God, it's him. And then they were like, we thought it was going to be somebody else. So I don't know if they did like a bait and switch. Well, so anyway, DJ, that's my knowledge on it.
I think that's a good example of, I'm going to assume based on what you're saying. And I partially asked this because, again, social media is kind of a nightmare. So I actually don't know what the general consensus on this show seems to be. Their reaction was generally positive.
Yeah, it seemed to be.
Well, it'll shock you to learn, Roxy. That's not what I'm going to give you right now. No,
Har, har, har.
but I think that's a good example of. I'll tell you the context of that scene. I think it'll be a good example of something I have trouble with on the show. So the scene they're talking about is we're at the early beginnings. This show was originally called Spider-Man Freshman Year. He's just starting out, and after he stops a robbery or some such, he finds a DVD player in the trash can, and he's going up to his apartment. There's a nice car parked out front, and that song from
Peter?
Peter, that Left Hand Free starts playing, and they start doing a shot-for-shot remake of his intro in Civil War. But lo and behold, the person that's standing there isn't Tony Stark. It's Norman Osborn. Now, this would be this is a reveal. This is an alternate universe. Except that our opening offer, the opening sequence, is Peter going to high school. Doctor Strange pops out of a portal to fight this Venom-looking thing. A spider comes out of the portal. And
is that Venom or is it a symbiote? What's happening?
It's some multiverse thing. I don't know what it is meant to be. It's probably some deep cut thing that I'm not familiar with, but it looks Venom adjacent. But anyway, Doctor Strange is fighting this thing. The school Peter goes to in the MCU is destroyed, and a spider comes out of the portal and bites him. So that's how this Peter gets his powers. And so it's like, why do we treat the Norman Osborn thing like a reveal when our opening offer is this is a Spider-Man from an alternate universe? Like we already know. Like, what are we doing? Like, what a weird decision.
Well, who is this show for, DJ? Like, is this for kids? Is this for everybody?
It does. It's probably like a lot of Marvel things where it wants to be for everybody. A lot of adults are going to be watching it. The people you're talking to that have seen it are all adults, but it definitely feels like it is meant for kids. It's not awful. But I do come away with the question of. It left me with the question of, like, does the Marvel Studios, the MCU, do they not like Spider-Man? Do they not like? Is there like some sort of issue?
Are they bitter?
Yeah. Do they like because it feels like every time with this and Tom Holland's Peter Parker and MCU, they're kind of like, in the comics, Spider-Man has one of the most iconic supporting casts in all of comicdom. But what we're gonna pitch is, what if he didn't? What if we got rid of all those people? And it's like, why do we keep trying to reinvent the wheel with Spider-Man? Like, there's been like, what, 8, 9, 10 Batman movies, and Alfred's always his butler, and he's always a billionaire, and there's core pillars in the mythos. It's not like they come in with the new Batman movie and it's like, what if Alfred died and his parents lived, and instead of Catwoman, it's going to be Catman. It's like, just do. Why do we keep like none of like there's no Mary Jane, there's no Gwen Stacy, there's no Flash Thompson. He once again, like, instead of Peter being like a broke loner, once again he's got a well-paid internship, not an unpaid internship like the rest of us exist in, but we're keeping with the MCU trend where he's getting a well-paid intern, one of these magically elusive well-paid internships.
What is the deal with the rights? Like, they do have the rights to all of these characters at this point?
I believe, as far as, because you bring up a good point. And the short answer is I'm not entirely clear, but my understanding was, because this cost me my favorite Spider-Man animated show, The Spectacular Spider-Man, which was being produced by Sony, and then Sony made a maneuver to, once Disney bought Marvel, Sony made a maneuver to really secure the movie rights, and that cost them the TV rights, or at least like animated stuff, to where Marvel's had multiple animated Spider-Man series since the Disney acquisition that Sony, as far as I know, doesn't have anything to do with. So I don't, you bring up a good point in that I do not know.
Right.
Like, maybe they're not like MJ, it's not Genki, what's his name? Ned. MJ, Ned, none of the ones that they made up for the movies show up in this show. And so it's like a complete clean slate. His best friend's Nico Minoru, who people might remember from the Runaways comics or the Runaway show on Hulu. The Flash Thompson character, instead of being Flash, is Lonnie Lincoln, who comic readers will know as Tombstone. That plot point I actually don't hate, because they're supposed to like pair up in class, and and Peter comes up with this thing like, I'm going to ask to be my science partner, be this girl that I like so I can impress her. And the guy that the girl he's into is seeing, Lonnie, asks to be his partner. And he comes in like, oh man, this guy's going to hate me. He's the cool jock. And he's like, no, I actually want you. My girlfriend says you're super smart. You're super great. And I want you to be my partner. And he's like, really embraces Peter. And it's like, this is interesting. Who's
the girl he's into?
Pearl, which I think is another deep cut comic. Like somebody introduced, I think like 2019 that I'm not familiar with. And another, like literally none of Spider-Man's traditional supporting cast. No J. Jonah Jameson. I
can't tell you how funny it is to hear you explain to me what I watched them watch and me try to put the pieces together of the parts I think that they were reacting to.
Yeah, it's not that it's devoid of bad ideas. Like when he gets he gets an internship of Oscorp instead of with Stark, right? And at Oscorp, there is a group of interns, including characters like Amadeus Cho, and there's a girl from Wakanda, and it's like this idea of internship peer group is interesting. But since you hadn't seen it, what I kind of wanted to float to you, because it's something I'm trying to unpack with the show, is how far can you migrate a character away from their core concepts and have it still be like, this is another question I've heard people discussing when it came to the Joker movies, which by the way, I saw over the break, the second Joker too. It doesn't start off awful, but once you get to the court scene, the movie just grinds to a halt. And I think the reason is, if you told me we're going to do a courtroom drama about defending the Joker, that sounds compelling. The problem is Arthur Fleck is not the Joker. Arthur Fleck's kind of boring. And so but if you imagine if Batman, unfortunately, imagine a world where Heath Ledger didn't pass. If in The Dark Knight Rises, part of the plot was somebody defending Heath Ledger's Joker, show me that movie. What is that like? What does that courtroom look like? You know what I mean? Like, that's interesting, but the character Joaquin Phoenix is playing isn't the Joker. And so to that point of how far, what can you strip away from a character?
He says multiple times, I'm not the Joker.
Yeah, and then the ending, whatever. It's just the movie becomes super boring. But the opening, I was like, well, I'm not hating this so far. And then about a half hour, even longer than that, about 10 minutes in the courtroom, you're like, wait, is this the rest of the movie? Are we going to spend the rest of the movie doing this? But anyway, so I don't know how, because I think I have had mixed feelings about the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. I think you like them more than me. So for you, what does that equation look like? Like how far, because I get the instinct. The instinct is, well, we don't want to do what's been done before. But to me, that's but there's things that are core to the character that the more you get rid of those things, the less it is the character that I love.
Yeah, that's so. Right now, I'm watching Harley Quinn, the animated series. Yeah. We're on, I think, episode 4 of the season.
Yeah.
And of season 5. And as you know, animation isn't my typical genre, but I have loved Harley Quinn, the animated series. I love that show. And when you talk about staying true to the core of the character, but doing slightly different things, it's like we've never seen a version of Harley Quinn that I didn't like, because I think that they do a really good job of staying true to the core of the character. And then on this show, when we see anytime Harley is in a dark moment, she sees her reflection, it's of Dr. Quinzel.
Yeah.
And she's like that past version of herself, right? And so it's like little tweaks, right? Your voice sounds a little different. Your love interest is slightly different, but you're you at your core.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes us love a character that we already love.
Yeah.
If you're bringing in somebody new or really unknown, I think you're able to do that a little more. But when it's one of your staple characters, I don't ever think it's really good to switch the core of that person.
Yeah, it'd be like if, we were talking about Superman earlier, and it's like, okay, they come in with a Superman, all right, we're doing a Superman movie, but no Lois Lane, no Lex Luthor, he's not a reporter, and it's like, well, then what are we doing? What are we doing?
That's literally what I felt like happened in Man of Steel, though, with we're doing a Superman movie, but his dad is going to die in a way that he absolutely could have saved him. And it's like, wait, but that's not what?
Yeah.
But like, what? If you don't want to do a heart attack, do something else that he couldn't have saved. Like, the whole point is that you can't save everybody. That's the whole point of, to me, Superman. That's the whole premise. Like, so yeah, I definitely feel you on that.
Yeah, so it's not that the show's bad, although I don't love, and when you see like screenshots, they went for this like retro, the style, the character design is kind of a retro throwback to stuff from the 60s, which is great. But when you see it in action, it's like this looks like a bad video game cutscene. And it's like, I think this art style would have worked better in traditional animation as opposed to 3D CG animation. I don't think I'm gonna, because my time is more valuable now because I have a baby. I don't think I'm gonna keep up with this show. However, I might throw out a poll. If you guys want Sal and I to cover for Spider-Versity, I'll do it for content. I'll do it for you guys. If that's what you want. If you want me and Sal to cover it, I will. So I might throw a poll out there. And Leonard Kim asks in the comments, live, patreon.com/onlystupid answers, is it connected to the MCU in any way? It is, in that, again, it's the multiverse stuff. Like, literally, again, like Doctor Strange shows up before Spider-Man does, before he gets his Spider-Man powers. That's another thing. They established Uncle Ben's dead before he gets his Spider-Man powers. Get out of here, man. Stop it. Stop.
What does Doctor Strange look like?
He looks like, very much like I need to look this up. He looks like the classic, much more like the classic comic version than the movie version. However, I do think, I meant to look this up. I do believe it is voiced by Benedict Cumberbatch.
Oh, okay.
He does not have like a conversation with Spider-Man. I also do I see him, Mr. Cumberbatch? Are you there? Coleman Domingo voices Norman Osborn, and I think if we introduce Norman into the main MCU, they would do well to keep Coleman Domingo, because not only does he sound perfect as Norman Osborn, Coleman Domingo is also a very good actor.
Yeah, really good.
All right, let's see. Hold on, everybody. Sorry. I meant to look this up earlier. I'm not seeing who. Oh, no. It's not even. It's Robin Atkin Downes did Doctor Strange. Well, he's doing a Benedict Cumberbatch impression. Anyway, what was the other thing?
Do all Brits sound the same to you?
No. But remember, he's trying to be American. He's trying to be American in that. But the problem is, it's, to me, I'd be much more. I wish I wish Marvel Studios would just do an animated series that's not like bearing the weight of some sort of. It has to like. So like X-Men 97 is a continuation of the X-Men the animated series from the 90s when we were kids, and this is part of the multiverse saga now. It's like, just do an animated show, man. Just do a Spider-Man show. I don't need Spider-Man to get his powers from the multiverse. Get the fuck out of it. We did that with Miles. It was great. Let's stop. let's stop there. Also from the Discord, Jake Hefner asks, would you want to see other animated MCU shows? What characters do you think a good cartoon would be around? So this is ones we would like to see moving forward. However, having thought on it, Roxy, I will say, as much as I loved She-Hulk, and I very much did, I think that should have been an animated series.
Maybe people wouldn't have had such a hard time with it then.
Yeah, and I think also would have cost them less money. And then you could have had Tatiana basically do. I wish Marvel would kind of do more, as much as we just talked about our issues with Creature Commandos. I wish Marvel would do what James Gunn did with that. It's like traditional animation, and it's connected, but it's not like load bearing. Like it's just, we're doing a thing. It's like, you could have done that with She-Hulk, and it probably would have been just as good. But do you have, acknowledging animation is not really a thing. Do you have
That's the problem, DJ. Even you just named my favorite show that the MCU's done, and I don't know that I would have watched it if it was animation.
Yeah.
So, no.
Yeah. No. The answer is no. For me, yeah. I think they should utilize it more. I think it's a great medium that, again, I actually think James Gunn is utilizing smartly so far. I think you could do characters like Squirrel Girl or the New Warriors. I know they were working on a live action show for that. It might be good to skew younger. Like maybe instead of a live action Runaway show, they could do an animated Runaway show. And then you can lean into the melodrama more, lean into the anime manga influence, stuff like that.
I liked that show.
Yeah, I think there's so many characters, and especially considering how much all of Disney, considering it's Disney for crying out loud, should look at animation more, because especially with the money troubles. Like, did you see, Roxy? I didn't get a chance to confirm this. It looks like The Acolyte was the second highest streamed Disney Plus show last year.
I did see. I was very confused.
For all the like hand wringing about it.
But then it talks about, like, Christian, I think, on the show this week was talking about not by minutes, by amount of clicks or whatever. I don't know.
What does that even mean? Oh my God.
I don't know. There's so little transparency that, like, I don't even know what most viewed of what.
Yeah.
And does that mean highly viewed or what?
Yeah. And doesn't matter considering how much it costs. And it's like, well,
Right.
So we're running into cost a lot. Like Skeleton Crew probably should have been animated. Like, you know, Austin A asks, what?
You know, it's interesting. A lot of my friends' kids right now, like my friends will ask me for recommendations for their kids because they know I watch a lot of TV. And the other day I recommended to one of them, remember how much I loved Mighty Ducks Game Changers? Because my friend was like, oh, I really want to watch something that I'll like too. And I was like, I love this show. She's like, dude, my kids will not watch anything that isn't animated right now.
Interesting.
Like, they really love animated.
Yeah.
And if it's real people, they're like, sick of it.
Yeah,
But animated, they'll sit and watch a whole movie, a whole show. So
real
like,
people tired of it. I see real people every day. Get them out of here.
I guess so.
Austin A asks, what other young superheroes would you like to see show up as allies of Peter? Miss Marvel, Human Torch, Iceman, Kate Bishop. I think all of those are great suggestions. If this were in the official MCU, those are all people I want to see actual Peter Parker hang out with. I want to see what Miss Marvel's like with Tom Holland's Peter Parker, because he's technically on the younger side, but he's older than her. That'd be interesting.
Okay.
Roxy's like, no, I don't care for it.
Well, I don't watch the show.
But yeah. In the show, well, we're going to get Daredevil. We're going to get some other people. But again, this is all stuff I'd like to see in the main. I'd be more excited if this were more independent on its own. Whatever. It also doesn't help. Mike Joyce pointed out in the comments, the voice actor for Peter Parker, before the show came out, he was like, yeah, I saw the script. When I got cast in the show, I was worried that the scripts would be woke and lame, but fortunately it's not. And it's like, cool. And it's a great example. It's a fantastic example of nobody knows what the fuck they mean when they talk about being woke. Because there's a whole sequence where Lonnie's walking home and there's a woman that won't sit next to him on the bus because he's a young black man. He's trailed by the cops because he's a young black man. And it's like, what the? So you don't know what the fuck you're talking about with woke.
I now find anybody who uses the word to be out of touch.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody who uses the word woke and isn't slightly out of touch.
Oh my God. All right. Well, let us transition, if you don't mind, to a show that we both are caught up on. Although I will admit, this was an episode when we get to the end, and we'll get there, where I was like, ooh, I should have watched the previously on because I don't know who this character is.
That's so interesting, DJ. I paused and was like, oh, wait a second.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. Once they started talking, in fact, I saw an article, I think it was either on Polygon or Den of Geek, that was like, by the way, here's who this character is. I'm like, okay, good. I wasn't alone in forgetting. But anyway, we're going to talk about this week's episode of Severance. This is season 2, episode 3, Who is Alive? And the helpful description on IMDb is Mark, Helly, Irving, and Dylan search for answers. So, Roxy, what did you think of this episode of Severance?
This was the episode that was most confusing, obviously. And still so good. So good. But this also is the episode that I feel like debunks my theory slightly.
With Helly?
I'm not.
You think?
Yeah. I'm not sure. Her with the goats. Are we full spoilers?
Full spoilers for Severance season 2, episode 3.
Her with the goat confused me because she seemed to be genuinely surprised by this room.
Mm-hmm.
So either she's more in the dark as Helen than she realizes, or she really is Helly.
Or, I mean, she might not know all the... I mean, because that could be interesting, too.
That's what I'm saying. She's more in the dark as Helen. She doesn't know as much as we think.
Which would make sense. It would make sense that, like, you're higher up, so you think you've got your thumb on the pulse of this, and then you're actually in, and you're like, actually, I don't know what the fuck they do down here.
What is this? Yeah. That scene was wild. What do you think about the pouches in the stomach moment?
Oh my God, I don't fucking know. I don't know. That's one of those things that I'm like, is that just because you're all this is all your only interactions and you're all a little crazy, or is there supposed to be more than that? Can I tell you, for me, not to just go past that, but can I tell you, the most upsetting scene in the episode was the gift Milchick gets.
Yeah, that was brutal. But also, she has become such a weird character. What's Vanessa or whatever?
Vanessa,
what's her name?
that actress is so Natalie. That actress's ability to say one thing with the bottom of her face and another thing with the top of her face is a masterclass. She is so good.
Crap. When she's like, they've hung up the phone now.
Yeah, because her smile says one thing, but her eyes say something completely different.
It reminds me of that moment in Get Out.
For real, very much, because it was that moment between Milchick and Natalie was an incredible use of dialogueless exchange. Like, we have a pretty good sense of what both of them are thinking towards each other, but they're not verbalizing. So for people that don't watch the show, it's going to be hard to catch y'all up. But anyway, there's a whole mythology around this figure named Keir, and we've seen multiple paintings of the story of Keir, and Keir is very much a white man. You'll be shocked to learn. The present Milchick gets to make him feel more included is all those same pictures, but now Keir is depicted as a black man, and he's because Milchick is a good soul. This was the first time I've seen cracks in Milchick's loyalty to Lumen. He's a good soldier, but you can see in his eyes that he don't like this.
And we find out that this is the gift that Natalie also received.
Yes. Can't give him like a raise or something. Can't give him like a little bonus.
And then they're off the phone. I mean, so creepy. So truly creepy. What did you think about the Patricia Arquette stuff in this episode?
Oh, dude, I meant to ask you. So again, to catch people up, Patricia Arquette's leaving, one assumes. She decides to come back. She's trying to negotiate a better position, basically get her old job back with Lumen. And so she's talking to Helen, Helly's Audi. And she's like, I want this. And Helly's like, all right. Like, almost calling her bluff. Let's talk to the board, which I find the whole, every time, the way the board is always portrayed to us is always so upsetting, because you never hear, it's like a static speaker, and then somebody tells you what the board's saying. It's weird. And so she's going to go with them. And I don't know, you, Roxy, I thought like, well, this is probably great for Patricia Arquette, because she's going to get to meet the board. And she gets increasingly upset the more they approach the building. And then Helen's driver, like, it's framed in a very specific way that he steps up. I'm like, wait, is this a trap? Like, what? And Patricia Arquette yoinks right out of it. She's like, nope, runs and drives away. And I'm like, I don't know what the fuck I'm supposed to understand about this exchange.
Here is my interpretation of it. I think we don't know what happened to Gemma. Mm-hmm. But whatever happened to Gemma kept her in the building forever and made them say that she had died in an accident.
Yes.
Patricia Arquette must have knowledge of whatever happened there.
Yeah.
And knowledge that they can keep her in there forever. Not that she's severed, but just that
could be. She could make her that way.
The ability to do whatever.
Yeah.
And her spidey senses were going off. Something was going off where she was like, if I walk in there, I'm never walking out.
Yeah.
But I don't know that that's right, but that is how I did interpret it.
Yeah. Yeah, but I just wonder what. Yeah, it was wild. I did not. That was one that stood out to me. And then the big offer at the end of the episode is, Mark meets this character that Roxy and I did not remember. And unfortunately, I'm on the IMDb and they have the actress there, but they don't have the character's name. It's a unique one. But she offers to reintegrate him, which is what happened to Mark's friend. And if I recall, it did not go great for Mark's friend. I think he ended up dying because of it. But
so we see this process, which is really visually cool.
Yeah, very cool. And also, again, like so much in the show, kind of upsetting as she starts asking him questions, and as he starts becoming or reconnecting with any Mark, it's questions he can't answer anymore. And when I
feel very abrupt, though. She comes to the car within 10 minutes. We are in there. I think it was earned because of all the build up to is his wife in there, and then her being like, yeah, last time I saw her, she was alive.
Yeah.
So I'll give the show the benefit of the doubt on this. If I was married and I believed that the only way to get that person back was to reintegrate, I probably would be like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go. But the entire show feels so like, I don't mean slow negatively. I just mean thought out and planned. And I thought that the retina burning was such an interesting idea.
And I love that. I mean, she's like, that's not going to work.
Yeah, for sure. But cool idea. But then she's like, you want to do this thing? And he's like, no, that really messed up my friend. And she's like, yo, your wife, last time I saw her, she was alive. He's like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa.
Do you find yourself wondering what is a trap and what isn't? So like, especially since I didn't remember this character, I'm like, wait, is this a trap? The other one, another great scene is...
And why was she there?
Yeah, that was the big one. I did like the way that was paced. That was a good reveal of her being there. But it is one of those like, wait, where'd you come from? The other one is when Dylan meets his Audi's wife. At first I was like, well, this can't be real. And then as the scene went on, I'm like, wait, is this real? And then we see the home line of like, wait, shit, was that real?
I 100% felt the same way. She's a really great actress. And when they introduced her, I was like, oh, so now we're going to see her more. But I was like, oh, Lumen has made up a wife and taken pictures and made these, and they're just going to like, whatever. But then when we see them at home, I was like, what the hell is happening? Is your understanding that his Audi's name is Seth?
Milchick's name is Seth.
Oh, so because I just saw that in the chat. We were talking about this. I was like, Leonard, what?
Yeah, no, this is the first time we hear Milchick's first name is Seth. And I think it's a good timing of it.
Oh, and that's when she says, Seth told me.
Yeah.
And he says, who's Seth?
Who's Seth? Yeah. And so it's very, I think this was the most humanizing of Milchick we've gotten so far. And that name, oh, he's just a Seth? Well, that's just a person's name. But yeah, seeing...
I'm so mad at Dylan right now. I get it, but I'm so mad at him.
In what way? We might be on the same page.
He's just like, he's part of our core four. Mm-hmm. And he's totally screwing. He's totally screwing them right now.
That is a very good point. What my issue with Dylan was, like, we saw this last episode when he went to the door store or whatever, and she calls and she's like really supportive, and he's like, read the room. Obviously I would have called you if it went well. And so in this, when she's talking to him, he's like, wait, is my Audi a jerk? And she's like, no. I'm like, well, he's kind of a
little bit.
A little bit of a jerk. And then we see him at home and like, hey, he's a little bit of a jerk.
And he's like, no, well, he just hasn't figured out what he wants to do yet. And I was like, oh man, this girl's a saint.
Yeah, very much on her side.
He's gonna fall in love with his innie. Like,
this is another good example, because if I'm remembering right, isn't Dylan's innie like pretty hardcore about his job? So this is another example of like those differences, you know?
Yeah. And then we've got that other storyline about the hallway with the drawings.
I don't even know I don't know that I have enough information to have an opinion on that yet. I'm like, well, we'll see how this goes.
But I loved seeing them interact. I thought that was really cute. Yeah. And then like, again, with what you were talking about earlier, I don't really trust anybody. When she's like, how do you know about the delivery hallway?
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know. How do you know about it?
Yeah, you tell me first, person. And then they're getting Rickon's book. They're doing a version of Rickon's book to put in the...
That's unreal.
Yeah. Poor Rickon.
Yeah.
Poor Rickon. That makes two wives. Dylan's wife and Rickon's wife, that like, you guys are saints. You're really putting up with a lot, it feels like.
Truly. But what are they going to be able to get him to put in the book?
I don't know.
That, you know, like,
that was one of my favorite threads from the previous season, where this book that is just not very insightful, but to these people, to the innies, it is.
Right. And they'll believe anything he says.
Oh my God. All right.
Will they get him to come in and give a speech?
I guess the breach has been broken with Dylan's wife.
Right.
I also want to know, Dylan's wife works nights and wears a uniform. A uniform that read to me is like, could she be a cop? This is interesting. I feel like that's intentional. But let's go on the other end of the spectrum.
It looked like an EMT to me, but
maybe. Let's talk about The Bachelor. Because I think on my Roku, how did I see this image? That if you're not watching live, it's an image of the recent Bachelor. This isn't our first Black Bachelor, is it?
No.
Okay.
And in fact, our first Black Bachelor broke up this week. What'd you say?
Okay, it's one of two?
Yeah, I think so.
Cool. Out of, I have it listed here because it blew my fucking mind. 29 seasons. God damn it.
I know. Crazy. were there 3 or is there 2? I don't know. I'm thinking about The Bachelorette's now too.
Mm-hmm.
The weird thing about Grant,
Mm-hmm.
who is the Bachelor right now,
He looks like a
is
handsome
that
boy.
yeah, he's definitely handsome. He didn't make it very far in his season.
Oh, that's right. That's how we
So
do things now. You were in the other one. You're in this one. Mm-hmm.
yes, so we don't know him.
Oh,
Like
interesting.
usually it's the person who was the runner-up or in the
Mm-hmm.
top 4, and you're kind of like rooting for somebody. This is now, I think he was eliminated like 7th or something. We just don't know him that well. So,
Yeah.
when people like my friend Steph, fellow world girl, is watching this season for the first time, she's like, "Oh my God, tell me about Grant." And I'm like, "I know him as well as you do from this first episode because we saw him on one date. He seemed like a sweet guy, but we didn't meet his family. We didn't do any of the things that we usually do with the people that end up being the Bachelor."
Gotcha.
So he seems handsome, nice.
He seems handsome.
He definitely seems handsome.
Yeah.
He seems nice. Seems kind of normal. I am excited because this season, somebody from my hometown who was a friend of mine's little sister is on the show.
Wow.
And she did such a great job in the first episode.
That's awesome. That's
It's just
awesome.
so sweet. And she's talking about her family. And I was like, oh, please, please make her look good. But it's so much more exciting when you're like, oh, that person's from my hometown.
Leonard Kim says, I can only think of Matt James, Grant, and Rachel Lindsay.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Bachelorette and Bachelor.
When we saw that, because
we
again,
we had one Asian Bachelorette. Don't you forget?
I was going to ask because Monica's like, has there been a Hispanic Bachelor? I'm like, honey, we don't have the technology for that yet. That's, we're not.
I don't think so. I don't think so. No.
Blows my mind.
Jen was great. So yeah, I am curious because for Jen's season, I was like, I don't know. Jen is just so normal and sweet. Will this be good? And then the season was good. So now it seems like Grant is just normal and sweet. And I'm curious how it will be.
Well, I'm curious too. I'll have to have you keep me updated on that.
I know you're so curious.
Listen, I'm not going to watch the show, so this is a good way to be like, what's going on? Give me the juice. That's what they say. Spill the juice. That's this phrase. Yeah, give me the juice. Let me suck the juice out of the Bachelor. Let me suck out the juice out of the Bachelor. Okay, so we're getting near the end. So I think I'm going to, you talked a little bit about, I can't remember if it was on the show or not, but you did talk about Landman last week. So we're going to put a pause on that. Although I did see Billy Bob Thornton's wife is played by Ali Larter on the show. And I'm like, all right, guys.
No, but they like address it. And
we know from the real world, Billy Bob can pull. So that's not exactly.
And it totally works. And he's hot as hell on the show. She's the hottest person I've ever seen in my entire life. On the show, I'm just like, why don't we talk about her as one of the sexiest women of all time? I mean, she is like insane.
Yeah. And I'm just going to say before we put a pin in the Billy Bob of it all, I did see Bad Santa for the first time this Christmas. I actually really liked it. And I was watching and going, this could be a show. You could make a Bad Santa show. You could do that. Cool. Okay. So let's talk about something that I just watched, but I found out Roxy had also watched. And so let's just do it. Let's just wade into it. Why not? It's our show. We can do what we want. Let's talk about EMILIA Péréz. So I had not seen this when it came out. I saw all the discourse around it. Most of the people I follow just ripping it to shreds, hating it. And then it got nominated for all those Oscars, and everybody got even madder about it. And this had the reverse psychological effect of like, well, I guess I'm going to watch it now. Because here's the thing. If you're telling me there's a crime musical with about a cartel boss that wants to transition, I was like, well, I can't not watch that. That sounds interesting. That's Zoe Saldana's in it, who's great in the movie, by the way. And maybe it's that the reverse psychology goes all the way down because watching it, Roxy, I didn't hate it.
But did you like it?
Yeah, I did. I understand. So I guess spoilers for EMILIA Péréz, who you guys can watch on Netflix. But since Roxy's seen it, I don't need to worry about spoilers with her. I do understand some of the criticisms. And I think one of the main ones being leveled at it is the trope of kill your gays. And I do think the ending is kind of weak in that I think it if I were to do a pass on the script, I would have made it more on Emilia's terms, because she's kind of passive through the whole finale. And I'm like, you could have had her being kidnapped because of her cartel past. You could have had her made a decision. You could have had conversations seeding the idea of life is transition. You transition from life to death. So I transitioned. My old self is dead, and now I'm Emilia. And so you lay the seeds for the idea of once she dies, she like fully, just make it less the trope of like, we're going to kill our gay person now to validate our straight protagonist. And it's like, well, but I thought it was stylish. I thought the performances were really good. I know the Carla Sofia Gascon, who plays Emilia, is getting some heat right now for some past tweets, which of course she's apologizing for because she's nominated for Oscars and stuff. And I'm not going to.
What kind of tweets?
It's stuff like, I just saw it this morning. Stuff against like anti-Islam tweets, stuff against Muslim people, stuff about George Floyd, and
like what?
Like just hate, typical like with the, again, and I just saw this stuff this morning. It was the railing against Islam by having women be in burqas and being regressive. And that tweet's offense, there was also one of like, I hate Catholics, I hate whatever, I hate. So it's like, all right, well, you're more broadly religious. And I did have a little bit of an issue with some of these trades publishing, like, can you believe these tweets? I'm like, well, a little over a year ago, you all were kind of okay with genocide, so I don't want to, maybe, you know what I mean? I'm just saying maybe you're being a little disingenuous now. So the George Floyd ones were like, I don't even, he was a criminal or whatever. I'm like, all right, that's fucked up. And who knows? We don't have time to get into like, is her apology genuine? I don't know, man. It's easy to apologize for stuff once you've gotten nominated for an Oscar and you want to you want to get that Oscar. So I don't know. All that said,
but some people don't remember. Kevin Hart was like, I am supposed to host Oscars, but I will not apologize for past tweets. So
good point. All I'll say,
she said she's deeply sorry to those I have caused pain.
Yeah, and talking about like, I'm a marginalized community, a part of a marginalized community. I shouldn't speak against marginalized. I'm not saying what she said was wrong. I'm just saying, it's easy to apologize once you're nominated for shit. But all that said, I think the performance was really good. I think Zoe Saldana is really good in it. I thought it was really stylish and cool. I know there's some issues with Mexican representation, like some part of the parts of the Mexican community weren't a fan. My wife, who's Hispanic, liked it and enjoyed it, which is not necessarily to say those are wrong. It's just different perspectives. So yeah, I'll say, do I think it's like the best movie of the year? No. Did I like it? Yeah, I liked it.
I'm confused on my thoughts on it now because I went to the premiere of this. Obviously, it went exceedingly well. At the premiere, everybody was like, this might be Best Picture.
Yeah.
Everybody was stoked on it. It was so fun to watch. And I had heard nothing about it going into it because this was when it was coming out. So I was like, oh my God, this is like reinventing the wheel in so many ways. This is so cool. I didn't find out until about 2 weeks ago that people hated this. And I was like, wait, what?
Mm-hmm.
And I found out because of my queer friends and my Mexican friends.
Yeah.
And I don't have a single queer friend or Mexican friend who doesn't hate this.
Mm.
To me, that's a big problem.
Yeah.
Did I, in a bubble, in a vacuum, love this movie? I did.
Yeah.
I thought that it was so interesting and different. And I thought that the music, which everybody is like, objectively, the music is awful. I didn't think that at all. I think that they totally knew what they were going for. Like, thematically, it worked. I just thought it was great.
Yeah.
But if you're going to make a queer Mexican movie and Mexican people and queer people don't like your movie, and you are a French director, I think a straight French director, although I'm not sure about that, then I think you missed the mark.
Yeah.
Because while I liked it, I think that the communities that your movies are about are the most important communities to speak on the movie.
Yeah.
And if there was a female Jewish movie and all of the women Jews you knew hated the movie, you would probably be like, maybe they didn't nail the movie.
Yeah.
So like, it is weird because I watched this and I was like, this is so good.
Yeah.
And then my sister-in-law was like, let me tell you why this is not so good.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, well, no, that is a valid point. I understand being sick and tired of seeing your people only being having a spotlight when it has to do with the cartel.
Yeah.
And I understand like the same thing, like queer people being frustrated with like every time if you like it has to be this big horrific deal you coming out and nobody loves you and nobody would accept you. Does it play into some tropes? Absolutely.
Yeah.
So now I feel a little conflicted because I'm like, I thought this movie was brilliant, and now I feel less about it.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a tricky one because I know Guillermo del Toro praised it, and then why am I blanking? Oh, you're really going to do this? The director of True Detective: Night Country, who is, I believe, a Mexican filmmaker, also liked it. But again, that's not necessarily to say that other Issa Lopez.
There are people.
Yeah, Issa Lopez.
I was thinking my friends.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's not to say that like, I'm definitely not in a position to be like, here's why they should rethink their whatever.
Me too. Yeah. At first, I started like not arguing with my sister-in-law, but I was like, no, and then I was like, shut up and listen, Roxy.
Yeah.
Talking about her community.
Yeah, because I could make the argument that's like, well, the him being starting as a cartel leader, that's a good offer though. That's like a good setup. That's a good movie setup. You know what I mean? So it's like, I get that but it makes it for a better movie. But so yeah, I don't know. I'm not in any position. I'm not an Oscar voter. I'm not in, it's not going to crack my top 10, not because I didn't like it. There's just the other movies I liked more. And maybe I'm more in the lane with people like, Issa Lopez and Guillermo del Toro, where you're kind of looking at it in the filmmaking. It's like, this is cool. Like, this is style. This is a great way to go at it. It's stylishly cool. It's, not that I don't have my criticisms, but like, it's a very watchable, enjoyable movie that's got a lot of like swagger. I'm into it. Who knows? But it is interesting to me how mad everybody is about this movie.
100%.
Yeah.
I think Leonard phrases it well. I enjoy Emilia Perez, but I can't ignore the trans community and Mexican community calling it problematic.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. Like in my little bubble, I really enjoy this movie, but I'm also not going to sit here and say it's a perfect movie when there are people who are like, no.
Well, let us know in the comments what you think about Emilia Perez. No, let us know if you guys have watched any of the stuff that we've talked about today. Let us know in the chat. And you tune in next week for more. Go to patreon.com/onlystupidanswers. Also, I might have to inject this earlier because I should have mentioned it earlier. But please do yourself a favor and do me a favor and go to dangerboycomic.com. That is where you can check out the pre-launch page for my new comic coming to Kickstarter very soon, Danger Boy and the Antagonist. It is my first time tackling superhero comics. I thought I dragged my heels for a long time because what can you add to that medium it's almost 100 years old at this point, and I just felt like I had something I wanted to say with superheroes. And so it's not just a superhero story. It's a cyberpunk action thriller. There's a lot of different influences, a lot of different flavors in there. If you're a fan of Invincible or Batman Beyond or even a little bit of Super Sentai, I think you're really going to love it. It's not like anything else I've really seen out there. And so I really believe in it. I think it's going to be a really kick-ass comic. I think you all really love it. So if you want to know right when the campaign drops so you can get some exclusive perks and some discounted perks in the first couple days, go over to dangerboycomic.com, sign up for our pre-launch page, and you'll learn more about the comic and you'll get updated as we go. Roxy, where can the kids find what you're working on?
You can find me everywhere at Roxy Strayer.
And you can find me at DJ Talks Trash. And we'll see you all next time. Bye, everybody.